Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Kyle Corvus Crow, joined, of course, by Jeff Zeta Schnurr. Making a couple last-minute adjustments here as we are getting ready to get into a hype series of League of Legends. As tonight we have the number 1 University of Washington taking on number 7 Arizona State University.
Yeah, ASU, they've been consistently strong, I would say. But in the JV scene, there is only one opportunity to be king. Washington so far has that top spot for a very good reason. They've been, I would say, adapting quite well. I don't think that there has been significant weaknesses I've seen in any of their team fighting or in their macro play. If we can take a look at the road to how they got here, you can see exactly the competition that they had to face. In fact, it's not, insane teams, Washington C, Utah Crimson, but the fact that they 2-0'd everything, and 2-0'd them extremely quickly, I think is what you should take away from this, right? It was a very quick series every single time. They always got their mark. They always basically just swept the other team aside. And ASU, in contrast, did stumble slightly, right? They did, in fact, drop one game to CU, Boulder Gold, but that's not even a fantastic, loss, right? You lose a game. It happens. Sometimes this doesn't exactly go to plan. And so now ASU are going to be put to the test. Can they actually make it happen when it counts? This is an incredibly difficult opponent. This is basically the hardest challenge they're going to have to face if they win against University of Washington, even if it's a 2-1. I mean, there's no harder opponent in the rest of the bracket. They should feel very comfortable going forwards. But that being said, this is the hardest opponent in the bracket. Washington are expected to take this one. I would say 2-1 is the prediction, but we'll have to see how that pans out.
Yeah, we'll find out exactly how strong they are as we are getting the last-minute preparations made to get things set up. I mean, I want to talk really quickly. You keep in mind, we just saw on Tuesday Johns Hopkins, number 2 in this group, just below University of Washington, come up against a similarly undefeated team in Missouri State, and they just took them to the cleaners. I mean, absolutely devastated. This undefeated team made them look a little ridiculous, so I'm sure, if that's the number 2, people are going to be coming into this series looking at now number 1, University of Washington, expecting a better performance, quicker, cleaner, and this is, of course, against a better opponent.
Against a better opponent,
right.
Again,
yeah number 7 here. But
that's the real rub, right? Can ASU, put up more of a fight? Are they better than Missouri? Historically, I would say that they faced a slightly tougher lineup than Missouri. In fact, quite tougher. They had to take down CC. They had to take down RMU. CMU, not RMU, CMU.
Right.
But that's still very tough opponents, right? And they had to do that, and they were still undefeated going all the way up until that point. And then it just, sometimes you meet that team, that team that's just so good you can't really compete. We'll see. Maybe ASU, being a ranked team, we'd have to expect them to be better, right? They have to have that level, that clean play that we're always expecting out of these top-ranked teams, but it's not always going to be guaranteed.
Well, we will see as we do get ready to get on into draft for game number 1 here. It is Arizona State over on the blue side. It's going to be the University of Washington starting on the red side. So for Arizona State, that's Hey I'm Bear in the top, Kevin Trang in the jungle, Roos in the mid lane, Amphi at the AD role, and Dual Brother as support. Meanwhile, over for Washington, that's Tachibana Kande in the top lane, Sunex in the jungle, Find Yourself, hoping to find a victory in mid, and then Yuna and Trendy rounding out the bot lane. So far, pretty standard bans coming into this, I would say.
Now, is that the actual Yuna? I don't believe it is.
I would be surprised.
I would be extremely surprised if Yuna decided to, pop over back to college. But, it's possible. Weirder things have happened, certainly. I do know that, this University of Washington team specifically has had historically quite strong individual members. And that's kind of how they've been. The JV hasn't always been the top of everything. But this year, they're certainly looking very competitive, right? And they are ranked number 1 as, pretty much a first look, the season as it went by. That's what really cemented them as the top dogs. But with Akali on the ASU side, now they have to show their innovation. If they can actually find a counter pick, find a way to not let the Akali snowball, to not let the Akali have action or any kind of effect on this game, they can do incredibly well for themselves.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they will be able to shut that one down, Akali. Something that's been around for a while, kind of coming and going in different stages of relevancy, but something that, there's really no surprises as to how to deal with this champion. It's not uncharted territory for a lot of these solo laners, and the matchup can prove a lot, and individual strength, obviously that's the merit of the first pick, but when it is first pick like this, you do have the chance to pull out a counter pick. Meanwhile, University of Washington opting to grab the Karthus first off, and we'll see what else they do pick up here. The Lee Sin in the jungle as well. Interesting double pick up, and really no time wasted there. Grabbing the Camille jungle for Kevin Trang. Almost certain that's where he's going to be pulling and playing that one. Be surprised otherwise.
Yeah, I would be extremely surprised. Actually, well, there is one scenario in which he doesn't actually play it jungle, and that's if they get the Gragas. I think Gragas, especially in the current meta, is an extremely powerful early game jungle, right? You can absolutely demolish people. Camille, not to be understated, she has great range, she has great engage, but there is a scenario in which they don't take, right, Camille jungle. They can opt into the Kha'Zix. They can go for, things like the Rengar, the Gragas, so these super, super aggressive early game junglers. Bet it all on black, throw it all down and hope that they come out, on top. It is a possibility. I think it's a very risky one. Of course, Camille is a very satisfactory jungler. She has been, tweaked a little bit, not put her out of her misery though, and definitely not put her out of the meta. So, with that all in mind, we have to see where they're going to go with this last ban, right? If they want to take out some kind of an ADC, already having the Cassiopeia, of course, definitely going to look towards the bottom lane with that. Then the pressure falls back onto ASU. Do they have the talent? Do they have the AD prowess? Do they have the right picks? Come back, because if they remove something like the Ezreal here, that means they are forced to go with Vayne as their last pickup. But Ezreal will still remain on the table. They can pick it. These can flex to other lanes, but it would mean that there would be a Cassiopeia top and a Karthus mid. Two very, I would say, non-ideal matchups against an Akali.
Right, the Karthus, kind of a question mark pick as to what they're going to do with this here now over on the side of University of Washington with the Scion ban and just a support focus actually from Arizona State, trying to keep Trendy maybe on the back foot there. Curious to see how the rest of this composition is going to manifest, because they're taking it down to the wire, but the Urgot is actually the pickup, so that very well could be Karthus in the AD role then for Yuna. Not too surprising. We have seen it before, at least, if that's the way they want to go with it. I think it makes more sense than the Cassiopeia when you have something like this Alistair to deal with in your face when you know that's the case. Whether or not that's how they end up playing it, that, yet to be determined, and the AD pick here could mean a lot for that. So the Sivir being hovered will get locked in here for Amphi.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very safe bottom lane on the side of Arizona State. And, we saw that attempted by, Missouri State in their series against Johns Hopkins. It was, similar, if not the exact same champions. I think it was both of these. I just can't remember if it was in the same game. But the raw aggression definitely won out on the side there. And the Jax pickup is something I like to see as well. So it's a bit of a power-heavy damage composition coming out from Arizona State, but I like what I'm seeing out of it thus far. Kind of they tied it together now for the University of Washington with this support pick, and I'd like to see the Morgana. It's not exactly the greatest thing against the Sivir, just the spell shield ability. Any kind of caster AP support there gets a little bit fuzzy, but I think in the greater text of the team fight, hey, there's going to be 3 or 4 champions trying to dive on our face. Well, then those soul shackles, that ultimate in a post-level 6 world, that becomes, I think, a pretty big asset.
Yeah, certainly. And the post-6 realm is one where everything's kind of dangerous. There are a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say 50-50 team fights, but certainly team fights in which team members are leaving at low HP, right? And so then it gets dangerous, right? When does the finish come out? Do they finish them off? Do they just let them go and try to clean them up with ultimates? All remains to be seen. So with that, we are going to be able to see which of these two teams are going to lead off with a W. Best of 3. The first game does matter quite a bit. I like ASU's composition. I really do like their composition, right? They've got Jax, they've got Camille, CC for days, the Akali, a fantastic pick in the mid lane. They've got themselves a Sivir, the Alistair. Doesn't really matter what you put as your bot lane, I think, right? When you already have the top lane trio as Jax, Camille, and
Akali, right?
That Akali, right?
Just nailed his face.
Whichever order you put those in, that's still a very strong top trio. And so then it falls to the side of Washington, right? Do they have what it takes to actually finish this out, right? Can they find their way to a victory with, I would say, what is a very unorthodox composition? But that might just be my guess, because we are on to the rift for game number 1 of ASU versus Washington. The Urgot, the Camille, and this Cassiopeia. These are all key players. Keep your eyes on them and their lanes. Of course, the Lee Sin falls to his death early. This will be a hard game, but that is the case for every early game jungler. And Washington are not a team to let the early game go by, right? They've done so well so far this season at controlling the early game, getting a lead, snowballing it, finishing people off. It's the reason they're number 1, and it's the reason they've gotten so far so quickly. This is a very dangerous team, and they're going to continue to be dangerous long past the point at which this game reaches 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So this Lee Sin here something you expect from Sunix, to be hyper-aggressive, to be in the faces of his opponents, especially some of these Jax in particular. Sure, he's got the counter-strike, but not the safest lane of all time. It's not as mobile as maybe some other champions have been designed in a post-Jax world. You can pick up in this top lane, so ganks heavy maybe for Sunix coming in here. Could maybe try to find something on Roos as well. I doubt he will be successful finding those kills in the bottom lane, at least to say early on. Maybe as the game does progress. And I think when you take a look at something like a Karthus Morgana in the context of that bot lane matchup, there is a lot of ability to lock the enemies up. There's slows, there's obviously the snare from Morgana with the Dark Binding, and plenty of damage to stack on top of it, but you do have to wonder how it's going to favor just a classic, good old-fashioned AD and support style that Amphi and Dual Brother are going to be bringing down here. This is the lane I'm definitely most interested in, and Kevin Trang seems to be as well. He's going to try to get in there.
Okay, very early. This is the Camille style.
Yeah, wants to get in, burns Trendy's flash, but you got to think, is it worth it? Because that health amount that he just took on the nose is really going to set him back in his clear times.
Well, you'd have to think so, but Camille's also not a typical jungler, right? She doesn't, if the level 2 gank pans out, she doesn't really care about that. But with Lisa in the mid, both junglers going for level 2 invades.
Yeah, there's the ward hop, but does not connect the Sonic Wave. They're trying to get out of this one with Roos, and actually the step back stutters, and now Kevin Trang is here and fully healthy. Maybe trying to turn this one on its head, maybe just scare tactics. They know the bot lane is MIA. They're not going to worry too much about it. This is actually going to give a very good chance, potentially, to drop some pretty important wards here. Maybe take this blue buff away as well.
This is actually pretty interesting, I think, because both junglers, right? These are both aggressive champions. These are both champions. Oh, Jax could have gone for a flash and a kill there, but knowing he's about to be under turret, doesn't want to commit, doesn't have leap up the reset. That was so close to being a dead Urgot. But
he knows that Sunix is on this side of the map too. I don't think he realizes exactly how much danger he's in. Otherwise, he would have saved that.
Now he has to.
Yeah, now he's in some real trouble. Still has that flash up and may use it early here. Just trying
Sonic
to
Wave available
through the minions, and that's going to be the flash early. But the red buff might just do it at this point. Can you dodge the Q? That is the question.
Coming up in
the
2
flash
seconds.
Doesn't matter. Sunix locks it up for himself, and that's first blood to the University of Washington. Just 3.5 minutes or so.
That Urgot's getting pressured. The Lee Sin reads it. Sunix is on the right side of the map at the right time. I mean, what more could you ask for, right? The jungler, knowing that this Camille is going to be doing some pretty much vertical jungling, right? He saw her very low on her bottom side of the map. He knows that she has to, take a step back. And because he spotted mid, he knows that he's given up his blue buff side. So he, in fact, goes towards his own top side of the map, hovers around there. The Jax is none the wiser, and he gets ganked for it and completely punished for his overextension. It's a great read by Sunix, and realistically exactly what you have to do in the jungle. You recognize where the jungler is on the other side, you counter pressure, or you would try to actually counter him when he's in there, but maybe he stayed too long.
And doesn't have the flash to get back. Cheekily tries to steal it, but was not able to at the end of the day. Jax will be hot on the pursuit, but Sunix is out of that one scot-free, and he knows it. And that has to be troublesome for Hey I'm Bayer. He was very close, but did not get it at the end of the day. Well, now Sunix disrespecting a little bit.
What a path!
Yeah, he knew that.
From both, actually, right? Sunix paths up towards his, his rocks, but you can't path rocks when you're at 100 HP. You don't have the vision control. You don't know where the Jax is. He gets in, and Hey I'm Bear pays him back in spades. Right now, he has the advantage with buff in his lane that he was already slightly winning. This is going to be extremely bad for the Urgot if this Jax is able to reset the wave, which it already has been. It's coming back to crash onto him. Kevin Trang now getting caught out. What is with the catches so far?
Yeah, these junglers are playing some risky games with their HP bars very much up in the face of their opponents, and now Sunix
could be dead to Roos.
His escapes to get out of that last one, and now he's having to hop right away and does make it out okay. But man alive, these junglers are just having a field day of it. And now the top side shifting back in the favor a little bit of Tachibana, surprisingly enough. Doesn't have the kill, doesn't matter. Jax has not been back to buy since, by the looks of it, and so
I'm just very surprised that the picks are what they are. Obviously, comfort plays in huge factor in JV. It's probably 80 or 90% of a draft decider is how comfortable people are with the chance. But here's a flash in. Sunex is already gone.
Duel Brother finds it. More to come potentially as now the rest of the team is coming. Find Yourself gets Kevin Trang, but
oh, the bounce
down. Yeah, Find Yourself not able to save that one, and that's Amphi getting the kill there.
Kali here as well.
Trendy trying to get a little bit more. It's a flash away. Find Yourself's going to be knocked up, though. This is a bad decision now for the Casio to just stay this long, and Amphi's going to pick that one up, punish it, and get himself yet another one. So the kills very much now going in the favor of Arizona State. 3 in that bot lane alone. Now the support did end up with 1, but when you get a double over to the Sivir like that, it's not the worst thing in the world for the support to get that 3rd kill. This will be a teleport coming down. Not going to use it on the tower. It'll just mean that Karthus can get here a little bit quicker. Yuna, he's got some catching up to do at this point, right? 2-0-0 and 54 CS for the Sivir. He's down about 15 and no kills to his name.
Yeah, it's like 900 gold. He's missing right away. And that's assuming, right, that the Sivir didn't get, any additional cannons, etc., whatever. Doesn't matter. At this point, what I gotta say is we see the comps playing out as we expected them to, right? The top half of the map, the Urgot, the, Cassiopeia struggling slightly, the Lee Sin's about even in terms of aggression, in terms of effect on the map. Right. But this is a very, very curious bot lane. And the reason I didn't say, 100% I was going to go with Washington is because Karthus is a strange pick, It's a very, very strange pick, and it suffers heavily in lane. It is extremely mobile. It has mana issues. It can get poked down, especially the poked down part, right? No actual recourse for that in most parts, but all of those things, considered. This is still a lane in which Washington can come out of it, team fight, and win. They have Karthus, ults really well. By ults really well, I mean you can't stop him once he's dead, and it's free damage.
Next in a little bit of trouble, maybe. Unless he gets a rescue, Tachibana is there, and now Roos is the one in trouble, found by 3. And the gank is successful at the end of the day, but they're going to trade that for an early Infernal Drake. As the jungle and support of Arizona State duo that one down together. Amphi, no worse off for it in the bottom lane here either. He's still just been keeping up the pressure in a 2v1 situation. You talk about that Karthus being risky, well, it's a risk that University of Washington definitely came here willing to take, because that was their first pick, keep in mind, along with the Lee Sin as they were picked in the same phase on red side. That was the top of their order. It said that's what they came into this saying, hey, we feel comfortable, we want to play this one. Now it just has to get to a point where it can manifest, because it's still 10 CS down, and the kills, okay, you can look at that and say that's not really his fault, but early death by Morg as well. This bot lane just, you feel like it should be going better for the amount of early draft priority they placed on it.
Well, maybe, right? And the problem is, can they play anything besides the Morgana, right? We talked about comfort. What we didn't mention is limited champ. That happens as well, And sometimes you just have to pick a support because it's like, okay, what else does he play? He plays Morgana, Nami, Lulu. Enchanters are absolute garbage right now. We can't pick those. We have to pick the Morgana. So that might be part of the factor into their decision making. It might be they don't know what they're going to draft. The Morgana is a safe pick. It's a consistent pick. It's something they always take. But the ultimate from the Cassiopeia is already down to Camille.
Yeah, they bait that one out a little early, but doesn't matter because Kevin Trang stays too long. And easily could have just backed right off of that one, but the disrespect cost him his life. Now Find Yourself with the barrier, the kickback under tower, and Sunex making a great play onto Roos, gets back the kill lead, and brings us to a sub-500 gold game now, favoring Arizona State. But that's a second death now of Roos in this mid lane. Sunex been a bit of a bane to this particular player here, and now... well, Hey I'm There thinks he can actually clean this one up in the miasma, and does so at least on the first
kills. Oh, never mind. Cassiopeia is too fast with that Q speed up. But, yeah, I think it's just Kevin Trang. He thinks they can go for it, but just general disrespect. The Karthus is global. The Cassiopeia has CC. It's dangerous. You can't always go in. And he went in, right? Sometimes that'll work out. Most of the time it won't, though, and this time it also didn't. So... yeah, gotta respect. Absolutely gotta respect. Otherwise, it gets turned on your head. They had a gold lead. You just mentioned it. It is now down to around 1,000 gold because of the great CS numbers. But it's not long to last, I would imagine. This is still a game in which either team can take the lead. It's just a question of who actually makes the first mistake.
I think, yeah, you just take up a little bit of an inventory across the map here, and some lanes going a little bit better than others for ASU. It's this bot lane advantage that they've managed to cultivate for themselves. Top as well. Maybe not there in CS, but certainly the case with the 2 kills now to the credit of Hey I'm Bear. Well, meanwhile, the inverse of that, the mid lane. This is a 3-1-1 Casio. At only 11 and a half minutes, find yourself in great shape here, and really doesn't show much signs of slowing down. Now, Sunex has been there for him most of these times, but that's what you want out of Lee Sin early anyway, and it's been working. We'll see if he can continue to find this one, get this gank on repeat. Very wisely, Roos sticking towards the bottom half of this lane because that's the side he's got warded, and he'll be over the wall. He'll be in the cover of the chickens, back to his tower. Everything is
That was actually pretty fancy.
And he gets the cannon, so you couldn't have asked for a better play from Roos there to get himself out of that and stay okay.
If he kills Find Yourself, I think that's a better play.
Okay, sure. I said
so you can't ask for a better play in the sense that here's an Alistar in the top lane, CC's stacking.
Yeah, there's no chance he's getting out of that one alive. Tachibana has gone down, and now Roos, well, there's the kill on Find Yourself. All you had to do was ask him nicely, it seems. He said, Zeta, I hear ya. I'm gonna grab this one. And does so with aplomb. Sunex not able to get in time, and it's going to be a bludgeon on that tower, still well within the range of turret plating. And now Kevin Trang, he loses the smite fight to Sunex.
He's going to lose this fight too.
More as well. Yeah, that's an easy kill for Sunex to pick up as Kevin Trang gives up yet another one. A 0-3-2 start, not what you want on this Camille.
Especially when you're losing 1v1s, right? Lee Sin is one of the best early game junglers because he has so much dual potential. He gets shields, he gets mobility, he gets CC. I mean, you can't actually expect a much better kit than this, but the CC from the Akali invisible underneath the tower.
Ooh, Roosh, though, going to get taken out at the very edge of that anyway. Actually, Karthus, ultimate, not going to come down. Requiem did not play a part in that death, so no assists at the end of the day for Karthus. Not even the passive. Get a little bit more gold just because I pressed R. Didn't happen this time around. Did, however, make sure that Tachibana is going to feel really comfortable just shoving this one back out, getting a little bit of that turret plating money for himself. And that's a much-needed little pocket there. Does actually force Hey I'm There to use that teleport as well. So, decent enough counterplay by the side of University of Washington here. And, you don't get to be the #1 seeded team without, obviously, the ability to react very well when things are not going your way.
But they've got to do more than just react. They have to make proactive plays beyond the Lee Sin. We haven't seen that just yet, right? University of Washington have been entirely reactive. They've been focusing on, okay, does the Jax come in? Do they overextend? Where's the Akali? And they react to it rather than saying, okay, let's catch the Akali. Let's force a play, make her run up, get a catch, etc. So if they start being proactive, I think this game can absolutely go their way. But they need to do so kind of soon. It's about 3,000 gold lead. Stuff is starting to progress not in their favor. And so that would need to happen relatively soon. Headbutt misses.
Enough. Yeah, close. This could be dangerous now, actually, for Dual Brother. He's very low, but they're trying to get more trendy now on the back line. And there's 4. Reinforcements are here, but are they here in time? Sunex. Answer is no. Couldn't find it. Trendy goes down. Do they want the re-engage? Well, if they don't make a decision soon, Sivir are going to tear them to bits. The boomerang almost makes it happen. And Sunex is on out of there. And it's a nice pickup now for ASU. They get a clean little takeaway on the support. Trendy's still going to be down for another 10 seconds. They're going to be able to shove this mid lane tower out pretty well, do the damage they want to it, and then maybe turn around on this dragon, or maybe just go for kills as Yuna in some trouble. Roos under tower doesn't give a damn and finds that one out for himself very nicely. Now find yourself in a little bit of trouble.
Looking for another dash.
Quickly, yeah.
No mana for ult.
Absolutely not. Any way that the Casio can defend this one. The blue buff will help a little bit,
Watch
but
the
you
air
gotta
dot.
be careful. They're trying to bait Amphi. Sunex is here as well. Can you get out in time? And the answer is yes. And it looks like a Cloud Drake should be picked up by the wayside as a nice little consolation prize. I want to say Jax soloed the Rift Herald while this was going on, but I could be wrong.
He did indeed do that, and I think the most interesting thing is the fact that it just seems like ASU have a better read on the game plan, right? Their game plan is, okay, we, force a little bit of an issue towards the early dragon. We take advantage of the fact that we're much stronger in terms of our CC and the ability to win fights early. They did that, right? Then it was, okay, we need to take the top laner down so Urgot doesn't just get to block our split push. They did that. Good job. Mid lane is solo killing itself. They don't really have to worry. But they're still pressuring for the turret. They opened up the map by taking that outer. It's also a very important macro decision. And through all of that, they've consistently, grinded out small CS lead. Or not so small in the case of top and bot lane. But these CS leads are also very, very crucial to their overall gold advantage. And so they're going to keep trying to cultivate these, get champs even farther ahead, and then hopefully scale out of whatever mid-game mess Washington has brought to the table.
The key here, scaling out. I'm very curious to see how they're going to be able to do for themselves here, because you look at the scaling and it seems fairly one-sided, especially the way that now some of these champions are off to the races for the side of Arizona State. It's not as though they're going to come online. They're pretty much already there and only going to increase that.
Kali's got to ride him.
Right, yeah, as it comes down. This is a blue buff. Find yourself. Not going to get the chance to get the 1v1 because now it's a 2v2.
What? No.
The junglers do join, and now Roos is on a killing spree. Bad news for Sunex. No way to get out of that one, and Kevin Trang gets a little bit of that revenge for himself there, and that's got to feel good. A little bit more.
That champion, that Akali, is so strong for a reason. It's so hard to pin her down. She gets so much invisibility, and that makes her incredibly difficult to stop. In addition to her healing, which is soon to be removed, she's just a very strong champion, but they're going to go for the Urgot.
And need to get a little bit more out of this one, and maybe they
Flash
will. Yeah, Tachibana going to go down. It's another tower now on the ropes as ASU are just cracking this wide open. Not going to get hit by the Dark Binding means they're okay to just escape. All members healthy, happy, just fine. They're going to clean up a little bit of this jungle. Roos already priming the next wave, but I don't think he can take a tower here. We'll see whether or not they want to fight and dive here. Could be troublesome. Sunex is going to land the Sonic Wave, but I doubt he'll follow up. And this looks like it's actually just going to be keeping some attention while Jax is in the bottom lane. Keep an eye on that. He's pressuring those inhibitor towers. The rest of his team buying some good time here. 18 minutes on the clock, and I don't think University of Washington have an answer to this. That's the Rift Herald
bot lane
just now. Beautifully done. They need to find something, and quickly, because that tower's down. Maybe
the inhib is going to fall.
Oh, Tachibana, he's in some trouble here individually as well. This top lane match not going his way at all. Hey, I'm there. Likely going to die. Has a decision to make. You try to get the inhibitor. He says yes, and
he gets
finish it off. Beautifully done by Arizona State. They're happy to be back off now. They have to. This mid lane tower's got to be the last thing they get before they walk away. Maybe even overstaying on this one because, yeah, that's some trouble. They're going to go for the back line anyway. I'm not even getting a chance to catch my breath. That's the Alistair down. Dual Brother is out of here. Sunex, though, going to get hit on the back end of the boomerang. Roos, are you aggressive? Are you out? What's the decision? He says, I'm out of this one. I'm on the run. 3 members down for ASU, 2 in the last fight. 1, hey, I'm there, soloed out alone. Sunex just coming up. Roos in some trouble. That's the pullback. He's absolutely dead and rooted up.
Oh.
Amphi dives to the overstay as well.
If Baron was up, this would be probably a University of Washington game lead, but it's not, right? It's 19 minutes, not 20 minutes. If they had gotten that turnaround a minute later, they would actually have the lead in this game, most likely. They would be able to Baron, they would take turrets, but fortunately or unfortunately, depending on whose side you're on, it's not going to be the case. ASU escape with basically no objectives given up. They gave up a couple kills. It happens. Gold was given back, but no objectives crossed the line.
Certainly not. And that is, unfortunately, for a team that wins a fight but can't find objectives. The debilitating fact of League of Legends is that one fights don't necessarily win games. They're only conduits to get the next neutral advantage that would propel you to a further lead to more one fights here. And now, find yourselves going to be found in the jungle. The barrier not going to help. Hey, I'm Bear. What a dodge on that ultimate. Saw it coming a mile away. We're gonna
Or
say
2
it's a
inches
dodge.
away.
We're going to say it's a dodge. We're gonna be kind.
Or 2 inches away, right?
Yeah.
That's just a great play by him. Individual outplays kind of characterizing his Jax style so far. And with the super minions in the bottom lane, they're going to have to make a decision. Do they contest Baron, potentially lose their base to supers? If they contest the supers, guaranteed give up Baron and try to weather the storm.
It's such a tough decision to make, but you think about the way that ASU really just powered up all their lanes effectively, kept pressure everywhere on the map, and so much to the point that they've not actually even given up a turret yet. That's how much minion control and wave pressure they've had. You put super minions in their hands, they're going to use that to destroy you. You put Baron minions in their hands, guess what?
They don't release things in the bush, though.
This could be tricky, yeah. Lee Sin gives his position away, says saving this tower is more important. And Bear, though, picking up the mid one instead, doesn't really care too much for it. Happy to just keep this pressure up, reset. They know the bot lane's just going to keep pushing in and pushing in and pushing in, so the longer they wait on this top half of the map, the better things start to look for them. And this top tower, no exception there.
Certainly not, and it's not even really an obstacle to them at this point in the game. They're literally just continuing to roll through this top lane. The Baron buff's on their table. They've got a bunch of stuff lined up. Probably going to be able to capitalize on it, but they just have to make sure they get this neutral.
Should be fairly well locked up. Now we do, of course, have Sunex lurking off on the side, and keep in mind both junglers level 11, pretty far below the rest of their teams, but this night should be neutral. What a knockback from Alistair. Dual Brother doing exactly what he needs to keep him in some trouble there and kept him right out of the pit. We saw it hit the 1 HP mark as well, so prime stealing territory. Sunex had his eyes on it, but that was all Dual Brother keeping him out of that pit, making sure, no, hey, look, we've got this one. Now the teleports are coming down. Everyone's backed, everyone's healthy, everyone's bot. And this is where things are very dangerous for University of Washington and their currently undefeated streak of not just series, but games.
This could be it. After all, this is not looking fantastic for them. They have a lot to contend with, and I mean, as of right now, it's not looking fantastic, but the Baron up team, that's not just, hard to deal with. It's almost impossible. They need to win a fight, and they need to win it convincingly.
And they're looking to find it now. This is the last stand if you are University of Washington. What can they get for themselves? Find yourself trying to get out of this one. Roos does get the kill, though, and now Tachibana going to be in a little bit of trouble. He's trying to do what he can under tower, and Roos going to about half HP means they might stall there some. But hey, I'm Bear. This is the real problem. He's coming in this bot lane. Now that inhibitor coming up any second now, but mid lane just going to go down. It's a revolving door of sorts. Maybe more to come on Kevin Trang here. Not going to be able to get out of that one.
Karthus can ult, kill him out.
Yeah, and I thought he might, but yeah, there it comes down now. They might find this one out early, but did just manage to live at the end of it. Just a sliver of HP as the first Nexus tower falls. Perhaps more to come here. Perhaps they just try to get the top lane inhibitor as well, because a back might be on the table with these health bars. Come back, you'll still have plenty of Baron time. You'll still have plenty of super minions, but seems like half the team still just wants to end this one outright. There goes the third and final inhibitor. Was down at the start of the fight, respawned, and is now down again. Bruce, that's
you gotta think,
back.
right?
Yeah. Ooh.
Gotta think that there's gonna be some point at which they back off, and if they don't, that's gonna happen. But yeah, absolutely great aggression so far from ASU. They turned on the gas at the right time, and they're just continuing to accelerate this game. The composition, perfectly meta. The play, little bit shaky in the early game. They traded back and forth with Lee Sin. Washington got some good hits in, but even though the scoreline looks relatively close, 17-13, only when you look at the real picture, the macro picture, do you see the destruction they've actually wrought. 10 turrets to 0, 3 dragons, and the Baron. 0 objectives on the map have gone to them that weren't small or large monsters, right? Every epic monster, every turret and inhibitor has fallen in the favor of ASU.
More to come by the looks of it if this game does continue to drag out, but I think this is the final death throes. The University of Washington, very little they can do to hold out on this point, and honestly very little that ASU would be interested in taking here, except that Nexus, the crown jewel of it all. One more tower stands. Final tower of the game is between them and that Nexus. They would get the perfect 11-0 towers given over. Keep in mind to the University of Washington, it doesn't look like they're going to get one before this game does end anyway, because it's just the minions taking on the tower at this point now. All that's left is to bring a little bit of your own minions to the forefront and then throw everything at this Nexus, and it looks like they may just be getting ready to do just that. Requiem comes down early. They want to find it, but the Nexus already taking a beating. Tachibana's down, more to come. Akali Roos does go down 4 in all, but so does Sunex. Maybe a little bit more out of this one as the fight's just continuing to rage on. They want the blood, not the Nexus, as they're trying to get this one on the fountain steps. Yuna gets it all, and Hey I'm Bear gives his life at the end of it. It's a triple kill for Find Yourself, but he's just found himself on the first losing game of this entire Winter Invitational, and now for the first point in the entire season for him, on the back foot. This could be, one more game like that. If Arizona can pop up like they just did, this could be our number one seed in some really hot water.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just Arizona going, and losing steam. It is Arizona, Washington losing steam. It's Washington getting demolished. They've never lost a game. You mentioned it, but mentally, they're going to have a long way to come back. They need to find something special to bring them back into this, whether that's, the meta compositions they've been saving. Maybe it's some solo queue picks. It's comfort. Whatever it has to be, they need to bring it, and they need to bring it now.
Well, we will give them a little bit of time to adjust, adapt, and make those, little tweaks that are possibly going to get them back into this series, because sometimes it's just a pick. Sometimes it's all in draft or one, early fight. They were competitive in kills a lot of the time, so whatever that discussion looks like for the University of Washington, they're going to take a little bit of time to have it now and decide exactly how they can come back into the series, try to keep themselves the number one seed, try to stay on top. But we're going to throw it to a quick break, and when we get back, we'll have more in this series.
I'm hidden here again. Your whispers found its way, calling me to stay. I'm standing at the edge, but something always brings me back. All the voices in my head reminding me of what I had. If I fall tonight, you can bring me back to life. If I fall tonight, you can be my saving light. You can be my saving light. You can be my saving light. You're here like lightning in my veins. Now they see me, and I'll never be the same. Your whispers found its way, calling me to stay. I'm standing at the edge, but something always brings me back. All the voices in my head reminding me of what I had. If I fall tonight, you can bring me back to life. If I fall tonight, you can be my saving light. You can be my saving light.
Well, thank you for staying with us through the break, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit of time for University of Washington and Arizona State to prep and get ready for this second game, possibly final, if ASU can, shock us a little bit. And as the number 7 seed come in and upset number 1, University of Washington just lost their first game of this entire season of the Winter Invitational. So who knows if this could be the first series and last series as well.
And I think the most important thing to mention is it wasn't close, right? It was 10 turrets, 11 turrets to 0. They took the entire base. They were up 12,000 gold at 26 minutes or so, wherever they actually ended. It was a one-sided affair through and throughout, and that's probably not going to change going into this game number 2 unless Washington have a different draft, right? If they run that same draft, the same event will exactly happen.
They are now on to the blue side, means first pick is theirs. We'll see if they throw it at Karthus again, because I would be surprised to see them put Yuna in the same position. But stranger things have happened. I doubt the bans are going to change up too much. There's a lot of priority bans that you just need to take away, and that's going to be the case thus far. The Jace out of there, no huge surprises. And ASU, I'm sure they're going to be flying high. Doubt they're going to be changing too much about the composition at all. Well, now here's a tweak coming out for the University of Washington. They say, hey, I'm Bear. We're going to get him off of that Jack, so we don't want to deal with that again.
That's a good thing. If you don't know, that's a very good thing. That was an incredibly powerful pick for them. And I think without the Jacks, they're forced to look at slightly less effective alternatives, right? The Aatrox, potentially, they could go with an old school split pusher, something like the Fiora. And removing the Jax and Akali, I mean, it's a great adaptation, right? Fantastic adaptation. You take their 2 strongest picks, the 2 things that give you the most trouble, that are the most meta, you remove them. And in response, what ASU are going to do is say, okay, we're going to take away the one thing that sort of scared us, right? The Cassiopeia had that early game lead. She was doing fantastically in the 1 versus 1, 1 versus 2 scenarios. And getting a Lucian first pick for Washington, not sure if that's what the doctor ordered. He is a very strong champion, but you need to have a backup plan. It can't just be, we're picking Lucian. It has to be Lucian Braum. It has to be, including a mid laner or a jungler in this first rotation. Probably jungler, more likely, obviously. But something that gives you that power that you can say, okay, now we can do damage. Now we can find our picks. We can get, success. I'm very surprised that they're opting into the Sivir again. Given that Ezreal is up, I think Ezreal's a much more consistent champion in terms of his early game damage. He smooths out a lot of the, low points of the Sivir gameplay. And he also does quite well at not getting caught by Lucian, right? Sivir has, a run ability, but she's got no dash. So if she gets caught out by Lucian, generally she's either going to die or she's going to have her support nearby to save her.
That works out, because Dual Brother did a pretty great job of playing that Alistair to the limits.
Okay.
Of Peel, and especially that Baron Pit moment from last game comes to mind as far as keeping enemy champions away from where they're supposed to be. Well, now Braum picked up by Trendy, so we have the bottom lanes figured out. We'll see what comes now. Solo laner or jungle. Wouldn't be surprised if they just lock in the jungle pick here, and that's the Kayn locked in. So this is a big overhaul for the University of Washington. They're changing up their strategy dadgum aggressively.
It's a pretty interesting one. The Kayn into the Alistair, obviously not easy, right? That is an extremely hard person to get towards. He just headbutts you away as soon as you dash in. So, not the greatest at ganking bot, but he is very prolific in his top and mid lane pressure. Generally the 2 lanes he finds himself in most often, obviously. And with the alterations to Kayn, right, where you are, a little bit more aware of what Kayn, is going to transform into, the transformation's a little bit easier on you. You can the other one, a little bit less stress. It's not the worst selection, but it is not what we would call high meta, It's not the peak, the pinnacle of strong champions. Taking away that Fiora, that's a huge indicator to me, right? That says, okay, you removed the Irelia, we're taking away your Fiora, you're going to have to fight us on even ground. Most likely, in some kind of bruiser v bruiser or bruiser v tank matchup that you're not just going to run away with.
Does become very interesting, especially with the Irelia answered back on the other side. Or not answered back, but the Irelia thrown down first. Kled out of there is the answer that they're going to bring to the table. And now the last ban called into question.
Kled is hard countered by Fiora, and Tachibana does have a couple Kled games on his record.
A silent death.
Kennen off the table. Now, if I didn't know better, I would say that what they're trying to do is remove people that just kind of walk into team fights and win them. But the Fiora's that, statistical outlier. It is possible they ban it just because they're like, okay, if we ban the Fiora, they don't ban Kled, we pick Kled. But then what if this happens, right? What happens if they just pick the Vladimir? They say, okay, we're just going to have ourselves the strongest meta top mid flex until we swap to Yasuo.
Well, the Yasuo will pick up something. I'm curious to see how this one does end up here. Wouldn't be surprised if that's just all Roos in the mid lane there.
It has to be mid, right? You got to think that this is a mid Yasuo because you look at it and you say, okay, if it's not a mid Yasuo, if it's top lane, that opens it up to a couple, picks, I would say. Things that can duel it, things that can CC it. The Scion in particular doesn't really care what Yasuo does. He just kind of hits him, and then Yasuo is stunned for a while. There are a couple other things. The Camille, I'm not sure if it's one of those. Camille is a very difficult champion skill matchup into Yasuo, as most, fighter versus Yasuo matchups are. But if it's mid lane, Galio's going to have a really difficult time.
I'm curious to see exactly how that does wind itself up here, because compositionally, the right bow on this team comp, the right solo lane pick here for ASU, really send them into a high position in this series, and we'll look at that Renekton, the lock-in. So,
okay,
gonna be the top laner, gonna be going up against that Camille.
That's actually a very interesting matchup. There's been a lot of Renekton recently, at least in terms of just a champ that you pick when you just want to win the lane. There's I would say a rise of Renekton, but it's a comeback. Everyone had Renekton in their pocket. Everyone said, yeah, I can play Renekton. I don't really want to because he's not all that good. But as soon as he comes back and he becomes viable again, so many top laners are very willing to say, this is something I am, willing to play. I've been experienced with it for a long time now. I've been, just ready to bring it out. And if that's going to continue to be the case, right, that they just have Renekton in their back pocket, we might see a couple more of these, late draft counter picks, because once a fighter is selected, Renekton has a pretty good matchup. This isn't something that he just says, I lose, I get poked out. None of that's the case anymore, because even though the Camille has potentially Comet and the leg sweep, it's not going to do too much. Renekton at 2 all-ins you, and either he kills you or you flash away. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Unlike his lower brother, Nasus, of course, he's full stop.
But once the god of death incarnate Anubis, and he just kind of whacks people over the head until they give him gold. I'm not really sure why, they picked Anubis for that one, but whether or not he's, actually gotten himself a bit more of a deadly weapon than just a cane that he bonks people with until it grows really big.
Trick 2G to cane.
I was thinking more Surchez there, but for all of you +6 fans, we accept those here. And now it's +12, but this is +2 because it's game number 2. ASU versus Washington. Sides have been swapped. Washington now on that blue side, ASU on the red, as you can see up top. It's going to be a real shocker if Washington lose 2-0.
Absolutely.
It's certainly possible. I mean, you take a look at the champs, right? Mid lane, the Yasuo has a great matchup into the Galio. He's going to be able to do damage. He's going to be able to dance around him. Obviously, with the Camille, the early pressure, if Yasuo starts dying, this lane is all over, right? Yasuo is not going to come back. Galio is still super strong, even post-nerf. That's something... Oh, sorry. It's not Camille. It's Kayn. because it's not Camille, the level 2 gank isn't easy anymore. It's not guaranteed. It's not like you can just run in and pressure and force a flash into summoners.
No, not even a little bit, right?
So, in that sense, they actually lost a bunch of their actual priorities. So now, Kayn, if he visits top and he runs into Renekton is more than happy in most scenarios to 1 versus 2. That could be the case again, right? If they let Renekton 1v2, if they let Renekton just run rampant over their top lane, I think Bear is going to be more than happy to do so.
In playstyle-wise, it's what really very similar to how things went for him on that Jax roll. He did get caught unawares 1 or 2 times, but you know, you take that level 6, you take that ultimate, the Dominus, and with that, I'm sure he's actually going to be very happy to find himself in those situations in a post-6 world, because he feels like he could probably turn this around yet. That's still early enough on, but before that, he does have to be careful. I'm not too worried about Kayn before level 6. Feels like he could probably get away with the slice and dice, but Camille, a little bit stickier of a champion in the top lane to have to deal with, so I'm keeping eyes on this one as it does unfold. The rest of the map feels like we got a pretty good gauge on how that's going to turn out. You know, we've got the mid lane, Galio into the Yasuo. We've got the tried and true bot lane. This is something every League of Legends fan in the esports scene has seen hundreds of times, and now the only question is whether or not the University of Washington can really hold off against the same lane that beat them pretty badly last time. If this is the right adjustment for them to be making.
Well, it's all going to come down to whether or not they're playing aggressively enough, right? And the problem is, if you don't play aggressively enough, if you don't actually, force the issue, if you don't take the Alistar to town early, he's going to just do what he wants. Oh my gosh, Kanade. This is what we're talking about, the Renekton power, right? He gets that stun off, the enhanced stun, and then just whirls his Q. As soon as that happens, you're already stunned, you already know you're going to lose a bunch of health. Generally, you die because he has Ignite, but because there's no Ignite, he doesn't actually pursue the Camille. Instead, he just returns to pressuring her.
He's really happy to do that at the same time, too. This is Roskian off the back of Hey, I'm There. He's already 10 CS up, about 3 minutes, and that lane going well for him. Well, mid lane not as great for
Sejuani
Roos.
here.
He's trying to turn it back with a gank. Sunex is going to be here, but is it enough for Find Yourself to get out? The flash says yes, but Kevin Trang still over the wall, finds the first blood, and Sunex was unable to finish off Roos. He did run back for the hills there, and it's a clean first blood getaway, all things considered now for Arizona State. Already 1 up in this series. Now they're 1 up in this game as well.
So, something interesting to note. The Yasuo actually pairs really well with the Sejuani, and I wasn't thinking about this too much beyond just the knockup factor, right? Her Q, she Arctic Assaults in, she knocks somebody up. Yeah, more knockups is a Yasuo favorite. He likes knockups. That's pretty obvious. He's also a melee champ, right? Her passive procs with melee champs, so as soon as she walks into lane, she doesn't even have to be in range. She could be on the other side of lane, cutting people off, and he just starts the CC. Speaking of starting the CC,
Yeah.
Galio.
He's taunted up. He's in a little bit of trouble now. Has to dash backwards, actually, because he knows it's going to be his best bet of getting out of here. Kevin Trang did it once. Can he do it again to get him out? And Roos disrespects a little bit, actually. Probably could have just hidden behind Sejuani, the big old 2-ton boar. But instead, did try to come back in, did try to find the kill, and didn't get it at the end of the day. And that's what's tricky for here. A little bit on the back foot, throwing away some of that earlier advantage. So they've got to make it up elsewhere. Well, they're still pressuring pretty heavily in this bottom lane. Still absolutely decimating this top lane. When you look, it's almost already 20 CS up. And Hey, I'm There. No real danger there, although if he does teleport back, could be at risk for getting sandwiched. This mid lane kill is going to be pretty huge, actually, I think. For the likes of the University of Washington, they just need to protect it.
The thing is, right? Even though they have a, even kills, that's cool. They're down CS, right? We mentioned both their side lanes are down CS, but Trendy is in a lot of trouble.
Ooh, yeah, this could be bad for the Braum here. Not going to be able to hop out. Maybe does actually just make it. Thought that with the flash burn, that was it. But the hop got him exactly where he needed to be at the end of the day, and he does survive that one. Still, it's only the Ignite used on the side of Arizona State. And that's 3 summoners, including Lucian's heal, down now for the University of Washington, where things get pretty tricky for themselves now.
This is what I was talking about earlier, right? The fact is, the Lucian is not playing aggressively enough to deal with Sivir Alistar, right? Sivir is not an early game champion. She doesn't have any power, any business being allowed to farm like this, being allowed to just keep pressuring. The problem is, you have to get through the Alistar to get to the Sivir to win the lane, so the Braum has to be in the right spot as well. Either they're not confident enough, or they don't understand the champs enough to the point where this lane is going heavily in the favor of ASU, right? And if it is, right, if your aggressive early game lane is not going in your favor, things are looking pretty bad.
To say the least. This has just been a pretty great camp, all things considered now, by Kevin Trang. He's not left this mid lane, really. I wonder if there's
He's just
better
doing it to
places
punish, though.
Yeah, you gotta think if there's better places for these junglers to find themselves right now. We're still just 1-1 on kills, top to bottom,
Well,
and maybe a little bit more action is what the side of the University of Washington need there.
Yes,
Down
University
CS.
of Washington has better places for their jungler, right? Sunex could be anywhere else on the map doing work. The only lane that is gankable for Kevin Trang, though, is this mid lane, right? Beyond Roos getting shoved in by the Galio, the Renekton is already past the halfway, or the 2/3 mark, in fact, that second torch. Quite often, right? He's just always shoving in, always pressuring, always forcing fights. Bot lane, Sivir's always shoving in. She's always auto-shoving the wave to turret, pushing these guys in, not giving them time to actually do anything. Mid lane is her only option, his only option. So that's the reason he keeps showing up. There isn't a better place for him to be. Of course, Sunex has better places to be, but he's recognized the pattern of ganks that has actually occurred, and so he's kind of hovering around to try and counter. But again, remember how he mentioned last match, reactive playing versus proactive playing. That's reactive playing. That can't be the only thing you do, because then you never make any actual progress yourself. You have to wait for the enemy team to make a mistake, and if they don't, you just lose.
I'm sure both teams making plenty of these mistakes, but capitalization is what hits hard there. Some of that just lost in that translation. Well, I can tell you one thing that's already going better now for the side of Washington. It's their bottom lane. And you know it's probably not as perfect as it needed to be when they drafted it. Actually, nice dash through the wall on. He's going to take a bit of a beating here, especially now with Sunex in the area. They do respect, I'd say, just a little too heavily, but they do know that Sejuani in the area as well. Means they do have to back off. Kevin Trang couldn't bring it in the ground. Back to this bottom lane. Underlying point, it's going better than it was last game, at least, right?
Yes. It is going better, but is it going well? I'm not so sure.
I would say no. I would say you'd want to be ahead in CS at this point, obviously. The University of Washington. I know the Sivir and the Alistar can be a little bit tough to deal with, but you're Lucian Braum, right? That's, you know, picnic of a lane yourself to face off against. And now Roos facing off against, find yourself out for that last attack, the knockup. That's going to need to in place when this teleport finishes channeling, and that's going to be bad news. The flash, the slice, the dice, the stun. Hey, I'm Bear getting a much needed kill here, and Roos actually just going to be able to drag that one back, forcing the flash at a minimum. But Sunex may still die here. They weren't able to get the tower off the way they wanted to, so that's going to be a flash out for Kevin Trang, and now Tachibana trying to get out of that one in one piece. Hey, I'm Bear with the tower aggro, pops it back off to the minions. They're all off to the races. Get a little bit of that turret plate in gold for themselves as well, and hey, you know, maybe a dragon is on this list too. Top to bottom, though, they came out with a couple good kills there, getting Find Yourself and Sunex. And now, a lot of priority around anywhere they want to play on this map. Looks like they're just going to get their own jungle, reset their waves. That's still a big setback for the University of Washington.
Certainly a huge setback, and I'm not sure it's one they can afford, right? At this point, they definitely need some kind of, lead, some kind of thing to actually get behind and, focus their efforts towards, right? They need a game plan. They need a win condition. And I don't know what their win condition actually is. Is it just get into team fights, hope that Camille Galio combo is enough? Not super sure about that, because the Lucian hasn't been put super high on the priority list. He isn't doing fantastically. Down CS, not getting the jungle attention that you'd expect out of a game plan. So, in that sense, I want to see the jungler pick a plan and stick with it, right? That's how University of Washington are going to start doing well, is they just need to pick one of their game plans, one of their ways to victory, and just make it their actual plan.
Just locking down on it hard enough, may be able to kind of grind them through this low point in the game, because if they're not careful, it will just get away from them, and that's something they cannot afford yet again when they are playing in the tournament lives here. So maybe this tries to get a kill on the roost. This is what they're looking for. It's actually knocked back up. It's the turnaround. Maybe the Galio ultimate will do something about it. He's low, but not low enough. Yes, there it is. Sunix finds the kill, but now Kevin Trang, can you turn it at least onto 1? The answer is yes. 2 is the ideal goal, and maybe with Duel Brother for the dive potential, they could make it happen, but that's a tier 2 tower. You're about to dive. It's a dangerous situation, and Kevin Trang gets punished for it and gives a much unnecessary kill back over now into the hands of the University of Washington. That one was just gifted for free, and they have to just feel great about that in particular.
Yeah, they certainly do, right? This is a great kill to pick up. It's what they needed. It's just something, some gold back in their pocket that maybe they can actually use.
We'll see that. We'll see how that is put to use, because getting the gold is obviously one thing, and it's important, but putting it to that use and making the most of it so much more at the end of the day. Not a lot of objectives besides towers for them to take. They have a better bit of siege than they did last time, just on merit of having an actual AD. Still weren't able to even find a tower in the last game, so they can't punish those nuclear objectives. They're in some trouble, and now they're going to try. Hey, on there, that's a 2v1. Dominus is down. He only wants to get a kill out of this, dragging him back through the minions, maybe. Knew he wasn't going to get out alive. Although maybe if he'd run the opposite direction, Kevin Trang would have been there in time to help him. I'm not exactly sure how that one all transpires, but at the end of the day, brings us back to an even keel in the kills, but not if the Arizona State University has anything to say about it. They want more blood. Find Yourself finds himself on the edge of a knife here, and that's the stun. That's the lock up. Duel Brother, he knows he can take another tower shot and not have to worry about it. Saves Roost from a little bit of that deep down, and at the end of the day, I'm not feeling so bad after all things.
Absolutely not, yeah. That's, I mean, it's going about even. This is the best I think they can be expecting as of right now, but this stun might be just too much to handle.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a lot coming down on him. It's going to be the last tower shot finally putting
executed
down into the grave, and Kevin Trang almost getting beat up in that tower as well. But yeah, the execute, the tower, everything's pretty well okay there actually at the end of the day, so they don't give up too much more. Sure, the death kind of stinks for them, not their favorite, but either way, pretty heavily. And now what's going on? Roos under the tower here. Has to be careful the way this all does transpire. As Papagana finds himself in the spot. Roos gets a double knockup to get out, and there's maybe a little bit of feel from Kevin Trang. What a great block! An interrupt, but now he's into the frying pan and fire as well. Roos, one more hit will do it. Got to be careful, but look at this. These were 2 full health members of the University of Washington, and they stalled them so well. What great peel from the jungler. What great survival instincts from the mid laner. Arizona State catching either a big break or displaying a massive amount of skill there, and pretty hard to say which one. Ooh, wild.
Mistake, maybe, but the knock-up, if they can find this Yasuo, it would be a massive play. The taunt is not going to land. The Brumkey will.
Yeah, but is it enough? Because Duel Brother, we talked about his peel potential. This Alistair is just insane for him. I think that's something that if you're a team potentially coming up in the standings against Arizona State, you got to be looking at, because he's been able to bail out of more than one bad situation here. Sejuani as well for Kevin Trang been a pretty big hit, and he's quintessential now to the composition for Arizona State. They really survive and thrive on a lot of this peel. Working pretty well for him thus far, and really tough now for the University of Washington to get there. And that's surprising in a sense, because they have a bit of a backline composition, right? I mean, when you look at the Camille, when you look at Galio, his ability to get in there, Kane to a certain extent, maybe not as much as the 2 former, but not able to get the backline targets they need, and you wonder if they're not picking the right backline targets. Yasuo. He's a slippery son of a gun, and you got him twice, but he just keeps getting out.
And that's, especially with the CS lead, I think worrisome, right? If he is just able to do what he wants, get the knockups, get the kills, of course he's going to be super strong, right? It's a Yasuo. He's got infinite crit scaling. This is what he does. And with the ultimate here under turret, they're going to try to take down this Galio.
Yeah, 4 versus 1. I take the 4. The tower's knocked down as a byproduct, and that is pretty good for him at the end of the day as well. So, now trying to get Indy. The Ace of Fissure comes down. They want to find more. Roos in a little bit of trouble here. Has to get out before the Braun proc. The Dual Brother does take it on the chin. Still alive somehow, but there's the back line from the Galio. More to come, perhaps, as they want to get in through this one. Sorry, no, the Camille is the back line, and now she could be in trouble. Tachibana, are you going to be able to survive under your own tower? Maybe had an escape right out the back way, but instead ran right on back in. And I think a key point of this fight was that it lacked empty. Sivir was nowhere to be found, and they still won on the side of Arizona State. This means possibly 2 towers will be their prize as they're knocking down not just inner mid, but inner bot as well, and maybe not even one of these towers. We'll see. I think Amphi should come away with this one. Okay, Galio has the ultimate to come down if he wants to get in, but says no. Not quite at a comfortable level to try to turn that one around. 160, just under 100 in rank CS between those two, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and because of that, right? I mean, they have to make so much gold up overall, and you have to think, right? This team barely got to 13,000 gold when they had 11 turrets down and a fully finished base.
Swallow now is more coming down. Trendy has to back on out. Tachibana's there, but it only baits out the teleport for ASU. And we'll see now Taeyeon there. Not a member of this fight that you want. That's the re-engage for Find Yourself. And, doesn't even live to regret that decision. He is instantaneously punished. And now Yuna is here. Trying to get something back on the board here. And Dual Brother likely going to die, but it goes over to Sunex. Not the best, but still good in terms of picking that one up. This map. Ever constricted, ever tight.
Maybe they're going to be able to kill the Renekton. Trendy should go down.
Yeah, that's at least one. He can get out of tower range before the stun hits him as well. Actually, not going to get stunned by the Braum passage. Does manage to weather that storm out, so they can't chain the CC as well as they'd like to. Doesn't matter, because Tachibana's got the moves and Sunex got the grooves. They finally finished the Renekton off, hitting him only his 2nd death of this game. Looks like Amphi, actually, the only one to remain scoreless in any fashion. No kills, no deaths, no assists. Just here, just with the CS. That's okay.
Well, he's here at least, you know. That's something,
He's got
right?
the towers, you know. Both bot lane towers, pretty much well to his credit. Farming up that CS. He's got most CS out of anybody in this game, ahead of his all-star mid laner, ahead of his all-star top laner here. He said all-star mid laner. Roos may be in a little bit of trouble. He's trying to get out there. Maybe the save potential, and Tachibana's there, but that's a Galio as well. The entrance is down, and now that's bad news for Roos. Can they get a little bit more? Okay, we could back off. Kevin Train, maybe he's in trouble. Yeah, just gonna have to leave him out to dry. Dual Brother says, "Sorry, my friend. I will see you on the other side." Kevin Chang is taken down now. The support Braum takes it out and away. A turret goes down in the mid lane to minions. And it looks like the University of Washington are going to have to do a little bit of damage control, lick their wounds, say, hey, look, you know, we got 2 kills. We only gave up 1. That's not the worst thing for us. That's okay, but they don't back off. Not if this keeps going on. Glacial Fissure's down. The teleport's coming out. They have to be careful how they want to play this one because Amphi, blood hungry, but I think they will finally get the message and back off.
I'd hope so, right? This needs to happen soon. They need to actually think, okay, you know, we've gotten something, got a little bit of gold back, let's take it, that's fine, we can contest to the next Baron. But is this gold enough, right? The question still remains, where is the gold coming from? How much of it can we actually account for in terms of our damage? Can we win in terms of a straight-up fight? I don't think they can win a 5v5. They need a pick beforehand, right? So, University of Washington, their next task now is before the Baron comes up, they have to get a numbers imbalance, and they have to keep it until they get close to equalizing gold.
Well, before the Baron comes up is exactly now, and, whoop, Baron's up, so...
Well...
I know it's tricky. That was such a... You know, that actually tricked, like, my brain. I was watching that thinking, oh yeah, now they're just going to go pick up Baron, nice clean it. Oh wait, no, that's Rift Herald, actually. We're still at only 19 minutes, Baron's not on the table, and... Hey ho, surprise, they finally picked that one up. Keep in mind how they used that Rift Herald last game. It was on an inhibitor turret. It basically finished off the inhibitor. It was just this late, delayed, hey, surprise, your base is in trouble, the split push, you've kind of forgotten about it. And then they pop it right out. We'll see if they use that same strategy here this time. I doubt University of Washington will be as fooled by it. It may be a situation in which they know it's coming and can't do anything regardless. We'll see how that does transpire as all members of Arizona State are hanging around pushing up that ward line, making sure the minions are doing more than their fair share of making these towers feel a little bit constricted. They're trying to engage now onto Rubik, so he could be in trouble. He flashes out, Tully not going to be at an angle to get the rest of him off here now. Kevin Chang might be in trouble. The Glacial Fissure does catch him just on the tail end, and that's going to be the blast cone over the wall. What a cheeky play to get out, and used it so well. I think that caught everybody but the University of Washington by surprise, because it did seem preventable. At the end of the day, he got it, he got out, and all that engaged, wasted on the front end. Now they're trying again on Duel Brother, but this could mean the rest of the members of ASU are ready to turn this fight back on its head. They want to find more, but so far haven't been able to get it. Amphi's actually taken a little bit of a beating here. He's back and has to file back. Now that's Heian Bear as well in some trouble, and he's stunned up Kevin Chang. Got to try to get out of this one. This is just the power of grouping now from the University of Washington, but Amphi gets his first kill of the game and finds that one out for himself. Now Sunex could be in some trouble, but he did pick up a kill on the roof beforehand. Maybe now find yourself in the backline, wants to get a multiple taunt, does so, but Amphi finds the kill, and Heian Bear is yet to go down still. Are you kidding me? The Ignite isn't going to do it. You're joking. He lives, and that is just bad news gone to worse news for University of Washington to only come out of that with one kill onto Roos. And to lose two, just hard.
It's just, if they get that kill, at the very least, they get even, right? They get something back. They get, a little bit longer stall. Anything at this point to make the game longer, they're looking for, right? Needing kills like that, especially when he has the Rift Herald, especially when he has the quick back. I mean, you're just delaying more time off that Rift Herald. Maybe you can stop it from spawning somehow. Maybe you can't. Not super sure. But what they do know is every single kill goes towards their coffers. It goes towards making their team fight possible, making them have a chance in this game.
Thermal Cherry. A nice little cherry on top of the likes of ASU. It's a necessary tool of survival for the University of Washington, but they don't want to survive. They want to fight. They want to thrive. They get Sunex down, though. He dies very early on the Roost. And that's going to be a double kill now coming down as Lucian out of this one. Luna did fall, and Trendy fighting for his life. But Lucian a little too late on that one, but I don't know if it was just still on cooldown. That's a trip for the Yasuo. Not going to get any chance at a Penta here. But instead has a chance at a tower, has a chance at an inhibitor, has a chance at the game, because the spawns will come up probably while this is all still in time. The Rift Herald, though, going to batter down these towers. Doesn't matter. They're all still full health, and the minions are here. The resupply wave is coming. The Rift Herald right here to knock out that tower. That is absolutely destroyed. I believe this very well could be University of Washington just finally going out of the tournament, the #1 seed, in so much trouble. The Nexus towers have both fallen. The Rift Herald's still alive, and there's just no surviving this one for the University of Washington. They have to dig deep. They have to try, but they're just getting slaughtered in their own base, at their own fountain. As the flash in happens, the Quadra for Sejuani, as it's Kevin Trang getting the glory as it all goes out in a blaze. And that is the University of Washington, the #1 seed, being dethroned by #7 Arizona State University, making an Arizona statement. Whew. I had to.
Whether or not we truly had to make that joke remains to be seen. But what we do know is that was quite reminiscent, I would say, of our last series, right? It was 2 games, both ended in like 25 minutes apiece. And teams are really taking advantage of the current meta, right? They're getting tons of damage, they're getting aggressive picks, they're getting new meta champions, and they're just running away with them, right? This game was not close. It was not like the last one where you can say, oh, maybe, the early game goes different. No, there was no early. The game ended in the early game. It was a 23-minute game, These are now 2-3 items. That is your expected final build. If you don't have a champ that does well at those items, you aren't playing the right champion. You need a champion that does well at 1 item, you need a champion that does well at 2 items, and that's it, right? 3 items, maybe you're an Ezreal, right? Your items are cheap, you get a lot of gold. 3 items is fine for him because he's an AD carry. He's expected to scale slightly better than normal champions, but that's what I'm saying, right? You need to have these champions that get 1 item, 2 item done, right? That's it.
Yeah, and with that, University of Washington, unfortunately, not even going to have a chance to, take the week and, tweak things and come back for next match. No, they're out of this tournament. The Winter Invitational marches on. We are now in the round of 16. Next week will be the round of 8. So, like you said, we had some short League of Legends this week. I mean, if every game was 25 minutes. That's a total of just about 100 minutes of game footage for what we ended up seeing just between Tuesday and today. But if you wanted a little bit more league action, fear not, because we'll be back next Tuesday, next Thursday, with the round of 8, as we'll maybe see some of these teams come up against each other. Would have been.
And
I know we were looking at University of Washington and Johns Hopkins. The earliest they could play, if they continue to win out, would have been the semifinals. That's now flipped on its head. Now I wonder, well, what if Arizona State comes against them? Is it still because the bracket positioning would be the same way?
Well, yeah, because they both played each other in the same match.
Sure.
So, still be the earliest they can come in contact.
So,
as far as I know. So, barring any changes, I don't think we reseed or anything.
That's what I was getting at. Is I don't believe we changed the seeds up there, but
I don't think we do. So, barring any unforeseen reseeding or other complications, I think that will be the case, and we should look forward to seeing Arizona State in their future matches. Clean victories from them, clean victories from Johns Hopkins. That will do us. That will do it for us for this week, and for League of Legends for the week. But if you're interested in CSGO, you like it a little bit, maybe you're going to stick around. We've got some CSGO coming up later tonight. It's going to be fantastic. Keep your eyes peeled on our Twitter for it. It's C-Star League, and there's C-Star League LoL, C-Star League CSGO.
It's actually just CSL, CSGO, CSL.
CSL, LoL, CSL, CSGO. But C-Star League will get you there if you search it on Twitter. So you don't have to go to the exact ad. If you want to follow us, I can't imagine why you ever would. But there's a thing like there.
Yep.
And there, if my arm went through his camera. Perfect. Anyway.
Very thankful that it doesn't. And with that, we'd welcome any of your feedback on Twitter, and of course, more esports to come. As Zeta just mentioned, it's all happening right here, twitch.tv/C-Star League, so more esports action to come. Like we said, League of Legends every Tuesday, every Thursday. That's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, little midday to early evening action coming at you, and we'll be back then.
Unless you're on the Eastern Seaboard, in which case this is some right dinner time action.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. Just get a full belly, and a full belly of League as well. And with that, we'll be leaving you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your week, and we can't wait to see you again.